We're here today with Bob Sedergreen. Bob is the jewel in Australia's jazz crown and has been for the last 50 years. He is a composer, performer and educator who has welcomed thousands of musicians and singers into the jazz family. Bob's also been described by Dr. Tony Gould as the best blues pianist in the world. He has played with greats like Nat Adderley, Dizzy Gillespie, Jimmy Witherspoon, and in Australia, our greats, Don Burrows, Brian Brown, Alan Brown, Judy Jarks, Ted Vining. And if you're interested in the history of jazz in Australia, have a look at his book, Hear Me Talking to You. Welcome, Bob Sedergreen.
Thanks, Celia. Good to be on the program with you.
Bob, I have a question for you, and it is, what is your thinking on art in your life?
Okay, well, I'm very lucky that as I came up in the music world, I didn't pay much attention to art. If I went to an art gallery, like an exhibition of Picasso, I just think, what's all this up there? I had no idea, no conception. Somehow our art teacher Ian Bow used to get me to do concerts at school on the grand piano. And he said he would give me 50% pass for art if I did this. So I passed art in school every year, but I had no idea what it was about. Then later in my life, I was fortunate enough to meet a great Australian musician called Brian Brown. And Brian Brown had been an architect as well as a musician, and he had a real concept about music and what it should be. And he believed that jazz music, especially improvisation, was like starting with a blank canvas. You started with nothing. And so he practiced what we call free improvisation, which is different to controlled improvisation. Sorry to bother you with this, but it's very important. So controlled improvisation is like painting by numbers, where there's a formula and you paint on 1, 2, 5 and 6, that sort of thing. To a real artist would be disgusting, wouldn't it? So to a jazz musician practicing free improvisation, we were able to start with nothing and shape music to hold forms. So he wrote a piece called The Old Stock Rider, which had a sort of galloping thing to it, but like that sort of thing. And we play all sorts of things. We played the Dipper. We recorded a piece called The Fair, which was impressions of Luna Park going up and down the Big Dipper. And the music would be shaped that way, shaped like shape. So music would have a shape. Yeah. And we'd also be able to interpret it differently. In other words, change the shape, the structure and the attack. So just as an artist would paint with various brushes and thicknesses and different things and different media, we did that with music, and I was very lucky to be in his band at that time. So I suddenly realised that music was an art form and needed to be interpreted. In other words, if you played it exactly as it was intended, exactly to the letter, you're actually doing a copy. It would be like trying to copy a Picasso. No one can copy a Picasso. So basically what you can do is be yourself, as all artists are, and express themselves through music, the media of music. So that's art in music. I was in a band with a guy I was with Ted Vining and Brian Brown, but I'm also in a band with an incredible percussionist, a national treasure of Australia called David Jones. And David plays with a lot of people, not just me, but he practices free improvisation all the time at his gigs. So when the audience walk in, we can't tell them what we're going to play. We can't tell them the name of the piece because it doesn't have a name. And strangely enough, when we do gigs, which is not as many as we should do, when we do gigs, the audience love it because we don't know what we're going to do. No one knows what's going to happen. And in the end, there's going to be something that people can then react to, which is what artists want, the same thing. An artist wants, if you go to an art gallery and you stand back and you cop a beautiful old Dutch portrait or something like that, it can speak to you. And so music can speak to you. So music is an international language, and I think art is an international language. So there it is. Now, getting back to where music isn't an art. Music isn't an art where it's absolute, a total dead set formula, and it's there's no spontaneous movements. It's all just straight and preconceived.
Okay.
So a lot of the music we see today is, I wouldn't call art music at all. I would just call it formula music.
Ah, thank you. Always learn something listening to you, Bob. Now, can you tell me, taking that next step, what's your thinking on art in society?
Well, having come to art late in my life, and knowing people now who do paint and who are artists, I realise that we're all in the same world, and it's just wonderful, the joy of going to I don't know, the National Gallery when they've got a great exhibition. They had Vermeers or whoever they're going to have. It doesn't really matter. It's like going to St. Petersburg and seeing a Rembrandt or the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and seeing this. There's so much joy, and there's so much information too that you can gather. Whether you're looking at Monet's garden, whatever you're looking at in the world of art, it's very similar to music, and it's a beautiful thing, and the expression and the feeling that the artists are conveying, and they're giving you their personality. And unfortunately, just as jazz music is, high quality music is, especially free jazz and high quality music, where there's a lot of improvisation in the music, it's something that's missing in society. It's society, and the music that we hear and see reflects society. So art is supposed to reflect society, but when society's controlled and expression is denied to people, then the art suffers. There'll always be artists who are fully aware of their art, and there's an art in so many things. I've only referred to painting and music. There's an art in playing cricket. there's arts in all sorts of activities in life, and people may not realise this, but they are practising their art. There's an art in dancing. It doesn't have to just be the arts. There's an art in growing flowers in the garden, but people have to be aware that with the education being box ticking as well a lot of the time these days, there's not a lot of time for art, and people have to discover it. A great gardener, a great horticulturist, you go to the Canterbury Gardens here, where close to Kew where I live, and just to walk through those gardens is just like being at an art exhibition. A really great gardener can be the same. So I think there needs to be more encouragement given to people to not be afraid and not just go with the mob, and to express themselves as they really are.
Thank you, Bob. And I know that you have encouraged so many people to, one of which is me, to do that. And you and your wife, Ray, have given so much support. And in fact, your family who are musicians as well. So you've had tremendous impact on so many people's lives. So thank you. And I invite people to go to your website, bobsedergreen.com, because even though we've got COVID restrictions, you have been doing live concerts with thousands attending, and we hope that everybody engages more in art in their life. So thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Celia. Look after yourself. Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.